Funding is essential for any business that's growing. What I found is the most important ingredient to the formula is passion. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. It has to be coming out of your pores as you're talking to people. People have to feel this immense energy from you that what you're doing is a mission they need to be a part of. And I think that's number one. Number two, you have to make people feel like the train is leaving the station with or without them. Because most investors are more afraid of making losing out on an opportunity than they are of making a bad investment. You'll never get an investor typically on a first meeting. It's 3-4 meetings down the road, and you need to just be cognizant of what you're telling them, and then meet with them the second time and saying, here's what I said the last time, here's what we did, we knocked all those metrics out, now we're on to these metrics, and look forward to chatting with you again. And then when you come the third time, you say, oh, everything we said, we knocked those out of the park, here's what we're doing. This one thing didn't work, here's what we changed. And what you find is that when investors are kind of watching you consistently do what you say you're gonna do, and you have a good story around how you've evolved the company, they start feeling like, I need to be on this train because I heard this three stories ago and I didn't invest then. And what you need to create is some sense of urgency around, okay, we're closing on Friday and everyone's coming in, we'd love to have you, but either way, we're moving forward. When people feel that kind of sense of urgency and the train's left the station, you find that you get a higher commitment level, because it's easy for everyone to say, let's just talk in 3 months, and you want to avoid that. I think the last thing I learned about raising money is the basics. Have a clear plan. Recruit a good team to help you execute that plan, and then find, even if they're small, just find quantifiable, measurable outcomes that you can point to of how you've been creating a staircase to success. The pattern of improvement, the pattern of hitting your goals is what people are looking for in backing you. And then capital takes different forms. For some types of businesses, certain investors are going to be the right ones. For other types, it's going to be a whole different group. And I think you need to, and it's helpful to know that ahead of time and only spend your time on the ones that are the most likely. One quick example is, don't talk to someone who's never made an investment in a startup or in your scale of company before, because to get them over the hump to do the first one is going to be a lot of your time than to get someone who's made 14 of those investments and they understand the risk.
Funding for a wine production company is very difficult to get. First and foremost, because it's a long-term investment. And there's a saying in the wine industry that it takes millions to make $1 million in the wine industry. It's very true. You have to buy land, which you need a lot of money. Then you have to have the funds to develop the vineyard. And then even once you plant the vineyard, it'll still take between 3 to 4 years to have the first crop. So that already you invested a lot of millions of dollars. And then once you have your first crop, then you gently vinify those grapes, whether it's red or white. And then from that point, you still have from 2 to 5 years to have those wines bottled and start selling them. So we're talking between 7 to 10 years before you actually get a return on your investment. So there are not a lot of people jumping out there to get into this industry. But the way we were able to do it is because we collectively contributed as a family. And we did it in a way that took a couple of decades. It didn't happen overnight.
I borrowed money from family and friends and to develop the product. And once the product was developed, and it took, again, years and a lot of financials, I had to pay them back. And so literally knocking on every salon door to sell my product is what I did. And it worked, it grew, I was relentless. I had to pay them back. And so that was the start of building the business and bringing revenue into the business. But as it grows, the business always needs money. No matter how well you're doing, you'll always need some type of capital and financial resources. So I decided to research the Small Business Administration, the SBA, and unfortunately, they won't give you a loan unless you have sales, unless you have revenue and collateral. So that's a lot of things you need to think about when building your business. You always want to remain in the good with that, because you never know when you're going to need capital or, to borrow money later on down the road.
I had the option of getting some private money, like $500,000 from some friends, and they're like, oh, we love your idea. Or I had the option of getting some venture capital money from one of my former classmates, who I didn't know that well at the time, but who's now a friend of mine. And they actually had ties with the company that I was coming from, Exodus. So even though they were going to take a bigger equity stake, I felt it was better to take their money and some of their ties and open up a venture capital network as opposed to the other money that I could have taken. So, those are some of the things that, even though you might give up less equity, you trade that off for maybe the network that's open to you and things like that.
When you're trying to raise money or get partners, sometimes making it slightly personal, where you create a connection where the person on the other end actually wants to see you be successful, is one of the best ways also of getting folks on your team and behind you.
I think access to capital is a barrier. It'd be silly not to say so. But I want to give you another access that I think can be helpful to that. And that is the access to opportunity. Because if you give me an opportunity to serve you, I will find the right leaders, I will get the right education, and I will figure out how to get a bridge. I will figure this all out if I have the access to opportunity.
Raise more money than you think you need. You always think, I don't want to dilute myself anymore, but you'll always use the money, right? So if you can get the money at a good valuation and they want to give you more money, it's probably okay to take it.
I don't believe in investors. I have to say I'm selfish in that sense because I've built it from the ground up by myself, and so I know the importance for me to continue to do this with by myself with my team.
We're self-funded. That means that I had to have the deliberate delay of gratification to not take a salary, put money back into the company, put money back into the company, put money back into the company, put money back into the company. You need to really be deliberate and intentional about delaying your gratification and showing your people that you're putting them first and not yourself.